Let's begin with this unspoken assumption, and I'm talking about the kids out there. Everybody repeats it, so it's got to reflect reality. Meanwhile, these are the same kids that talk about being, in a system where we're indoctrinated, trained to repeat horse shit. But they don't question what our masters leave online for them to, regurgitate. How much sense does that make? Is there a lick of logic involved in that? The answer is no. But most people probably couldn't answer that question because most people aren't thinking for themselves. They're part of that camp. Now that I'm home, I'll read these out loud. Let's see. It began down here. The Republic fell during the Civil War and was finalized in 1871 when the Organic Act created the District of Columbia. Keep in mind that's the bottom of the trilateral city-states, which most people aren't aware of. It's the military-industrial complex. To think for you, above that is the Catholic Church, which is social control, having to do with religion, having to do with Roma or the Vatican, respectively. And most people think that's the top of the food chain, and that's only two. Trilateral city-states, hence three. The top of the food chain is the money. Follow the money. The top of the food chain is the Crown, which is a banking financial center. It relates to the royal family and the black nobility in Spain, but it's called the city, and it's a city-state. It's a teeny little area that is governed by its own. Just think of it. Just think by its own laws. It's got its own police force, blah, 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 blah. Hence city-state. Look up the definition if you don't know what I'm talking about. Each one are represented by an obelisk, which people just don't get. It's fucking crazy. Either way. What else did I say? And then I said talk of presidents, and I was going to say is divisive, which it is. It's polarizing garbage. I said America is a vassal state of the crown. Well, here I'm not reading my words. America is a vassal state and a crown colony, which means polarizing people concerning a steward of the corporation is propaganda. Keep in mind, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, those are also crown colonies. And if you think back to 2020, the IQ test, most people failed. Yeah, our masters roll out different testing beds to essentially see how the public will react. The same applies to the internet. And you saw that in Australia and Canada if you think back to what took place. My mouth is moving faster. No, my brain's moving faster than my mouth. I flip things, pardon me. I said, look up the title of Nobility Act. Quote-unquote presidents of the District of Columbia cannot hold official titles such as Duke and Baron, etc. It's very telling. And it's also why you have the blanket title of Commander-in-Chief. I've said this numerous times. Most people don't look it up. Most people don't think about it. It's because it's a crown colony, which means these presidents are low-level stewards. They're low-level masters. They're the bottom of the food chain in terms of the trilateral city-states. And, this is very telling. Lest we forget, America conscripted Nazis at the end of World War II, which means we no longer have a constitution to worry about. Everything else trumps that, but this is just one more thing to consider. And I should read this again. Often I'm alone. People confuse entertainment with research. Research leads somewhere and bridges all subjects. But as always, what the fuck do I know? You got to challenge others, you got to challenge yourself, and only by doing both of those, and usually challenge yourself to begin with, might we challenge our masters. And at this rate, there will be no revolution. People don't have a goddamn clue what's going on, and they're just stuck in the circle jerk, which people call the truth community. You and I are surrounded by people who assume they're doing well, they're researching, they're repeating entertainment, they're repeating adult fairy tales, they're playing follow the leader because most people are doing this. I just left some stuff on here. Some of it you guys have heard me say many fucking times before, but it doesn't usually come up. It began with Wilcox. I'm talking about David Wilcox, who is an absolute piece of shit. He's controlled opposition. This post has to do with the president. He's talking about Trump. The moment you see that, if you're using the brain between your ears, you know that he's polarizing people. Otherwise, that wouldn't come up. It's superficial politics at best. And if you look into what America became, what's actually fucking going on, No one would fucking talk about that. Because that's recirculating the adult fairy tale. That's reaffirming our master's nonsense. Either way, I've had interactions with this guy twice now, I think, in recent times. And I'm gonna have to cut this video short because I gotta hop a shame, well, no, it's not a shame train, it's a loser cruiser. I'm hopping a bus. So I'm a very classy guy. But where are we at with this? It stopped at a light. He says, "You are alone here, but if you have info, please make video." Naturally, he didn't take the time to knock out a sentence, you know? Please make video. Kids today. Either way, I said often I'm alone. People confuse entertainment with research. Research leads somewhere and bridges all subjects. In other words, it's interconnected. It's it's a big fucking deal. You guys have heard me rattle these things off before. And these reaffirm what I just said, what I poorly rattled off. And no one's gonna look into this on this page, 10 to 1. I mean, most of these kids, they're not gonna click on my profile to see if I have anything, you know, even in the top of the profile related to what I'm bitching about. Because they're lazy. They're not involved, which means they're not invested. And this shit's old hat. Now, the simple fact that people have asked me to think for them when they're repeating this garbage is, again, telling in and of itself. This is David Wilcox, and if you can find him on the fucking History Channel related to ancient aliens, it's fucking propaganda. Use your goddamn brain. And you can. Any of these celebrity personalities, they're not good people. They work for our masters. And it should be obvious, but again, people aren't thinking. They're not using the gray matter between their ears. This is from a screen recording video I made earlier with no sound, so I'm just babbling over it. Yeah. I mean, you got to look into these things instead of buying into them, and that's what people don't do. That's why they're repeating this shit. He's not a good dude. I think this goes down, or I scroll down in a minute, and then you'll find another video in here about blue avians. Anybody who's battling about aliens in general, they are misleading the public. It's a fucking agenda. You should think in terms of anything that's well-financed and well-publicized is garbage. Notice aliens at the top. Garbage. It's in the fucking programming for a reason. And some people will touch on the fact that that's how things work, and yet they'll still repeat this shit. Because what? They're not thinking for themselves. There's the blue avian horse shit. Is it aliens? Aliens don't exist. They never will. The only thing you're ever going to see is a man-made test tube abomination. That's it. That's it. People don't understand this. Some people will talk about the New World Order. They'll talk about a one-world government or a one-world religion. They'll talk about what our masters are doing with the beast chip and other things like that. You know, some of these kids are Bible thumpers. They don't get it. The alien rot is part of the agenda. 5G, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G is part of the agenda. Calling dudes and gals and dudes is part of the fucking agenda. Our masters formulated this plan dating back to the 16th century, which most people are blissfully unaware of. It relates to the great game, which is the long game. And our masters know that most people are easily duped. They're easily taken in by sensational shit. We like telling stories. We like telling fairy tales. It's interesting. Doesn't necessarily reflect reality, but it's fun talking about that shit. And that's what people do. Either way, what the fuck do I know? And how many of you sat through this? How many of you are going to consider it? How many are you going to look into any of this? Will the internet show you this video? Which I have to break up into 2 sections on fucking TikTok because their masters are also doing away with attention spans. I also got another strike today for something. Who knows what? I mean, they're arbitrary strikes, and keep in mind, community standards or community guidelines has nothing to do with freedom of speech. But you and I weren't smart enough. We weren't thoughtful enough. We weren't bright enough to put something in writing that protected freedom of speech in a digital medium. And that would come up a lot too, if people were thinking for themselves, but they're not. So you can use this as an example. This is what you're going to just keep bumping into if you do what I keep doing. And what people should by all rights be doing, because it leads somewhere, it means something, it reflects reality, in stark contrast to what people are fucking repeating. But instead you'll get this jazz. And I mean, this is the account moderator. Whoops, where's it at? This guy. And he's not censored because he's shopping around horse shit. He's shopping around horse shit. You got to remember, some of these people are controlled opposition. Some of these people are, decent people, but they didn't think for themselves. They bought into the numerous adult fairy tales or entertainment or however you want to look at it. And it varies. But people don't reason any of this out to understand what I'm getting at. They don't put in the fucking time. Again, neither of those people. I bet you they didn't click on my account. Yeah, no one has clicked on my account. 0. Which tells you, I mean, that's how invested they are. They asked me to think for them. And that's why they're repeating this shit to begin with. It's really that simple. It's it's asinine when you think about it, but this is what you're gonna run into. This is what people do. And this chick, I mean, it cracks me up. Here, let's see how many people are following her. Oh, look at that. And what do you see on here? Here, look. Here's an adult fairy tale. Here's controlled opposition. Shopping around an adult fairy tale. I don't know what to make of this garbage still. But you see it all over the internet. This is absolute nonsense. Billy C is controlled opposition. I mean, he's shopping around space propaganda, globe theory, horse shit. And then on top of that, he'll also tell you that Thoth was an Atlantean. You go back, there's a second-hand account handed to Plato, no mention of Thoth. It doesn't pop up. People they're not thinking for themselves, either way. Here's controlled opposition. That's actually an interesting video, though, for what it's worth. You're gonna get grains of lesser magic in these things, but then they're gonna mix it up with horse shit, absolute horse shit. They're going to tell you about space, or they're going to tell you about flat earth. They're going to do one of the two. They're going to pull you in one way or the other because they're polarizing people and people aren't thinking for themselves. What else do we got in here? Can't stand Linda Moulton Howe. She's controlled opposition. Just think of the Disclosure Project, which is funded by the Rockefeller Trust and originally Hillary Clinton. But that never fucking comes up. What else? Pleiadians is absolute garbage. This inner earth junk is a seeded narrative meant to mislead people. People don't understand where we are and what this is because they weren't spoon-fed it. I mean, so far, I mean, this is more than enough, and this is irresponsible based on what she's left on the internet. This guy does dish up some things that reflect reality. He'll tell you about how the ether does exist and how it was, what was it, the Michelson and Morley experiment was recreated in the 80s by the US Air Force. And it's relevant because you and I wouldn't exist without the living waters, without chi, prana, vril, etherions, however you want to look at it. It's relevant, but he's still gonna pull you in other directions, which is why I don't think you can trust him as far as you can throw him. That's one of the many things that he's talked about. What else do we got here? Pardon me. So a lot of kids, whoops, where is it? A lot of kids are babbling about the Nyan sequence in 3, 6, and 9. They do not understand this whatsoever. This is all they've been spoon-fed, and that's all you ever see repeated. I'm sitting on Answers to Reality. Anybody who's run through what I've left online knows that what I'm talking about holds water. I mean, beyond a reasonable doubt. I can teach you things, but I expect you to use your brain and put in the time, and that's where people don't want to do that because they've been conditioned to repeat entertainment. They've been conditioned to kick back like a voyeur and supposedly digest. Really, they're just memorizing horse shit. And when you confront them, that's all they have to repeat. They don't have anything interesting or thoughtful to say. They just have our master's narratives to rattle off. Either way, what the fuck do I know? Thanks for hanging out. Alright, so I just got home. And I figured I should also say, doing this is a waste of fucking time, for the most part, typically speaking, because the internet's not going to show you this video. And the kids involved, I mean, they don't look into things, so they're not going to consider the information, most likely. Which is to say, they're not going to look into the information. I mean, they didn't click on the profile to begin with, which means they're, what did I say, not invested, not involved. They have superficial shit to repeat that our masters left on the internet. And that's what they're gung-ho and geared towards leaving on the internet. I mean, I'm being lazy with my words, but I'm also multitasking. It should terrify you just how stupid people are. It should fucking terrify you. It should, but most people aren't going to consider this. Again, because they got superficial shit to repeat. So here's this fella's account again. One of these at the top, he's babbling about Pangea, which we have no proof of. It's an adult fairy tale, but take it with a grain of salt. What was the other one that I was bitching about the other day? The JPEGs don't leap out as easily as the other one. Where is it? There's the rainbow stuff again. And Billy Carson, who is controlled opposition through and through. I mean, anybody who's repeating the flat earth stuff again and the globe theory stuff, they bought into a paradigm that goes nowhere, means nothing, and is fuck all. You can't use it as a tool. That's why our masters lie. That's why our masters spoon-fed people who aren't willing to think for themselves this shit. Black holes. We've never observed a fucking black hole, just like we've never observed gravitons. We've never observed a quark. We've never observed fucking... The list goes on. But people repeat it. And promoting it in any form or way, I mean, is promoting it. People babble about Tesla here on the upper right. Yeah, but most people don't know about Steinmetz, Oliver Heaviside, Faraday. The list goes on. But you hear about Tesla all the fucking time because that's the superficial poster boy. That's what you see shopped around with the 3, 6, and 9 shit. Because people aren't researching. They're regurgitating. There's another one. Maybe I'll leave it at that. Oh, I can't remember if I threw this guy a bone or not about this jazz.
We're going to talk about the World Wide Web.
I left a video online. Here, you can find it right here. If people knew what they were talking about and they were using the brains between their ears, they would be very frustrated with the amount of ads that pop up in this crap. I mean, there's another ad right there. And second one down. It's meant to insult people, but... Oh, shit, I hit the wrong thing. But people aren't thinking for themselves. Here we go. So, top 2 videos, I think. Nope, top 3, technically. But these 2. And if you watch the repost, the Rainbow Seminar, which is flagged with a copyright, I'll teach you something about that www that you don't see come up. Because people aren't researching. It's as simple as that. And all this junk that I'm rattling off right here, this has to do with the Tavistock Institute and eugenics, which people aren't researching, so they don't understand. And this was an interaction I had with another dud online in reference to this, who didn't click on the profile, didn't put in the time to watch the videos, didn't consider the information, but they reacted instead of researching, which is what people are doing, and that's why we're in our master's pocket. This movie's from 1987. It's called Hot Pursuit. A lot of people don't know about it. Why am I telling you this? Because there's alien propaganda in this little movie.
No, I made this myself. You gotta come down here for the right stone, though. Better than the real thing. Intergalactic Rosetta Stone. Yes. Proves that aliens brought life here to Earth. Someone is sure gonna want this one.
Yeah, if they're nuts.